Communication. In communication, you need both a sender and a receiver, and how they need to communicate with each other. If you are a successful communicator, you speak to the emotions, because that is where people actually take their decisions. When you communicate from your heart. Very happy to be back here in AIESEC and doing this webinar. And I'm very excited to see you guys. So with not much further ado, welcome to this training of effective communication, explaining the why. This is a 1-hour training session, which I hope that you will enjoy, that you hope to learn from, and I hope that you will be active participants in this session. So, just to introduce myself a little bit, my name is Annika. I work as a partner in a company called ANSIP, where I do trainings in presentation technique and communication. I also work full-time as a director of administration in a small innovative company called Global LNU Services, which deals with the oil and gas sector. I was a member of AIESEC from 2004. I started off in Uppsala in Sweden, where I studied. And then in 2006, I moved to Norway to be on the MC and was there for 1 year. So now it's 15 years ago I moved to Norway, all thanks to AIESEC. And yes, I did not stay just 1 year. It's been another 14 so far. I also enjoy things like public speaking. I've competed in public speaking and debating before and won a couple of championships in that, which is also some of the basis and the trainings that I do. With you guys, I am going to start off to tell you or to discuss with you why we are having this training. The first point here is that I want you guys to learn how communication is sent and how it is received. We are also going to look into the reasons why communicating the purpose, so the why of something, makes it effective communication. So if you have a clear purpose, your communication will be a lot more persuasive. And also because if you're speaking from your heart, you will convince people in a completely different way than if you're not. So that is a little bit of the core of what we're doing today. And along the way, I'll also give you some tips on how to communicate effectively. With that, I just like to have a small seeing who is in the room. You know me, I'm Annika, but I'd like to know who you guys are. And I think I'll do this by opening the floor. If Pascal, if you can just briefly introduce yourself and tell why are you here today. And once you've done, you can hand the mic over to someone else in the room.
Sure. My name is Pascal, and I happen to be the national president of AIESEC in Norway. I've been with the organization for over 6 years. And before coming to Norway, I was vice president in Denmark. One fun fact about me is that I really would love to see every single country in the world before I clock 40. So I have to go. Who knows, maybe this session, effective communication, would contribute to that. Thank you. And I nominate...
Well, why are you here today? I'm curious. Why are you here in this session right now? What made you come?
communication is something that is relevant and useful in our day-to-day interactions with our friends, family, our work colleagues, school colleagues. And I think it's very important that when we interact with people, we ensure that we are communicating the right intent in the right way. Um, More so, given the globalization that we experience in the world right now and the acceleration of diversity on all fronts, I think it's important to understand how to relate even across culture lines. And I think communication principles matter even beyond our close community. So I think today's session is to, see it from a fresh angle and to add up on top of what I have been developing over the past couple of years. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But yes, who is next?
I think Sarah. I see Sarah on the list.
Yeah, hi. I'll see if I can open the camera. Can you guys see me?
Nice to
Hi.
have you.
So I'm Sarah. I'm from Alexandria, Egypt, actually. I'm not in Denmark at the moment. I'm here today because I think communication is an essential skill, as Pascal mentioned. But in general, I think it's one of my strengths. But I'd love to hear what you have to say about communicating effectively and better, because I'd love to grow and improve and have some guidelines in my head when I'm communicating to think of when I'm communicating, to make sure I'm just communicating effectively, basically. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, I think Selena, are you with us?
Yes. Let me just do my camera.
There we go.
I hope you can see me. Can you?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. All right. As you said, my name is Selena, and I'm from Malawi. Currently at NTNU. And why did I come for this program? Because I feel like my communication skills suck at the moment, and I'd really like for it to improve. I'm not just thinking of it in terms of, because obviously I'll be done with school and I'll be going into the workspace and I need to communicate effectively with the people I'm working with, but I'm also looking at it in terms of like friendships and how I talk to people. So I find that sometimes I don't say things the right way, or I end up not saying anything, or the message comes out really wrong. So I want to improve on that and what steps I can take to be more effective in my communication.
Thank you. Farouk, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello. My name is Farouk, and I currently live in Norway. I'm studying at BI, and I'm here today because, it's just want to improve my skills and knowledge about effective communication, because it's going to be important in business, for instance, since that's what I'm studying, but also, in networking and making friends and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Sverre, do you want to say a few words as well?
Yeah, I can. Well, my name is Sverre. Live outside of Stavanger. For me, a lot of, typical Scandinavian, I am very prone to under-communicate and keep saying too few words to get them understood, usually, I feel, and I need, some help and some development on that part. That's me.
Perfect. I see we have been joined. Stephanie, would you like to introduce yourself and just let us know why you took the time to be here in this Zoom room right now?
Yes. Hi everyone, my name is Stephanie. I'm from Kenya. I'm currently in Norway. I'm a student, and I took the time to join the session because I would like to learn a thing or two about communication, both written and spoken, because they're not my strongest suits. Also, I identify as an introvert, so that means my social skills aren't up to par both in the workplace or social environment. So I hope I can learn a thing or two about that today.
Thank you. All right. Last but not least, Zaina, do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Hi everyone, I'm Zainab from Nigeria, but I study here in Norway, and I just want to learn about communication and how to be a better communicator and be more effective and efficient in my communication. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, guys. And for my sake, if you want to keep your cameras on, I'm happy because I like to look at people, but it's completely up to you. So that is a little bit about you guys and me. Welcome again to those who arrived to the effective communication explaining the why session that we have today. Just to run through what this next 45 minutes plus will be about. I'll start off with doing a little bit of this is what is effective communication, and giving you some tips and tricks on that, because I heard a lot of you, I think you're being a bit modest. I think you do know how to communicate, but we can always, every single person can always become better at communicating. Then we will look into something called the golden circle. Some of you might know it from before. And then finishing off with how to communicate the why, which is the core of the golden circle. So that is what we will spend this time on. I hope that looks all right to you. And I'd just like you to do a little bit of a thinking to yourself. The reason here is I'd like to have you think you already kind of spoke about your expectations. So I'm not going to broadcast everyone out again, but what are your expectations for this training? But also what are your expectations for yourself for the next 45 to 15 minutes? What do you expect? I can tell you already now that my expectation on you is that if you have a question, you will ask that question, either by raising your hand, unmuting yourself, or by asking it in the chat. But think about what you want to get out of this session. So take a few moments and think about that for yourself. I will keep quiet for about 15 seconds so you can think. All right. Again, if there is an expectation that you came up with for the training that you didn't mention before, please feel free to let me know now, or you can also write it in the chat. But at least now we kind of set a framework for about what this training will be about. The reason I also ask you to set some expectations for yourself is, again, to center you into this, because we all have so many things happening and there are so many distractions, and sometimes when we're in Zoom meetings we get distracted by other things. But remember why you bothered to sit down and think about why learning more about communication. So with that, it is time for communication. Let's start off with the first section on this. So in communication, our biggest problem is that we are constantly exchanging these ideas, and there is so much going on all the time. And we need to remember that there is a need with us to both be heard and be understood. That is one part. but we also need to listen and understand. So you always have with communication these two parties. Someone is communicating and you hear them, but you actually have to listen really carefully to understand what it is that is being communicated. And it's something that goes on constantly. There is very rarely a vacuum in communication. There's always someone talking, you're reading, you're seeing things, and so on. And if we go into a little bit more about what is effective communication, the most important and basic part here is that it is a two-way process. Often we see that the person who is communicating, they think, well, I'm speaking or I'm writing, so I'm communicating, and if there is misunderstanding, it must be with the person who's listening or reading from me. But that might not always be the case. It's often up to see what, it has to be this two-way. You have to, if you're communicating out, you have to look and see if this is being received. And again, there is, so you have to have this sending the right message. That's part one. So start off with sending the right message. But there must be someone on the other end to receive it. If you're only speaking and no one is listening, then it's not communication. If you're writing and no one is reading, it's not communication. Communication needs both a person sending it and a person receiving it. I'll just do this too loud. The message should be understood. And again, to have this effective communication that we talk about, for the person who talks to know that it's being understood, having that confirmation from the person listening is good. And that could be anything from, for example, right now, I said something and I saw the video of someone nodding. And then I was like, okay, so they're actually following with me. When you're speaking to someone face to face, their facial expressions, their eyes can tell you a lot, or they can just say, yes, I understand, or sorry, I don't understand what you're talking about. So having that confirmation is a very important part of it being an effective communication instead of just speaking. So understanding this, and as Svara nicely put it in the chat, it takes two to tango. It's all, you can't do it alone. Communication is one of the things you can't do alone. And to show you a little bit about laying this out, there is this effective communication model. So we have these two people. There we go. So we have this sender, person A, has a brilliant idea and sends out, and so they explain their idea. This then goes into the receiver's mind, and they receive the message. They confirm they got it, and the first person again can clarify it. This seems quite easy, right? What we do need to remember though is this little thing. There we go. That pops up between, that kind of blocks these arrows. And this is something that is called a filter. A filter is, I would say, the reason why there is often bad communication. The filter consists of if I am the receiver, I have this filter in front of me, which is previous experiences that I have. It is views, it's opinions, it's my belief, my how I was raised. It's how, and this can also be things like languages. They form a filter, which means that what the person sending the message said has to go through my filter before I understand it. And that is often where the miscommunication happens. If we are not aware that we have a filter, it's so easy to think that what I hear is what the other person said, or what I say is what the receiver hears. But it does go through this filter where things can be a little bit distorted, where things can get mushed up. Some things maybe just get filtered out. It's not there. I mean, another way to illustrate a filter is compare the way you speak to someone on a video call to how you speak to them on the phone. If you're on the phone, suddenly you lose all their face. You don't know what their facial expression says. And suddenly you know much less about the other person. So it can be things like, yeah, is there no image? Then that takes away a filter as well. So the problem with this, or with communication, is often that a message gets lost. It gets lost in space because the sender, they think that what I say is what other people hear, and the reverse. But maybe you should also think about it in this way, that, for example, when you send an email, that email, you don't know if it's been received until someone replies. It might have been delivered, but you don't know if it's read until the person who got it replies back to you, either by email or by doing something for you. So think about that as when you're having your oral communication, that looking into, okay, what I say, sure, fine, but you need some kind of a confirmation back, and not on the head, a verbal answer to your question or so on. So with that, does this model make sense, or do you have any questions for this model?
I think it makes perfect sense. Like, just thinking about the times when I have been in a really bad mindset and people are talking to me and I'm taking everything as passive aggressive and everything is against me. Yeah. So yeah, that's
your filter. That's your filter. And it's basically impossible to not have a filter. We are not blank sheets. We have that filter, but if we are aware that we have it, we can think around it. And again, oh, I am in a bad mood. Maybe what he or she said wasn't malintended. Maybe it was, but yeah. So be aware of this filter and try to remember that this is something that happens all the time. When it comes to giving you some tools or some hints on how to effectively, how to communicate more effectively, we have the lovely 3 C's of effective communication. The first one, I'll go through them in detail as well, but the first one is to be clear. Say what you have to say to be understood. It's trickier than you would think. The second one is be concise. So say what you have to say in as few words as possible. So to take a stereotype, don't be a politician, right? Be short and say in as few words as you can. And then be consistent in your communication. That means that building the trust and make sure that you provide the information that is necessary, so that people trust that what you're saying or what you're giving them is what is necessary. And going into a little bit more detail, we are soon going to do an exercise, so I hope you're ready for that. But being clear. So being clear is informing about the who, what, why, when, and where. So if you're communicating, make sure you have all these ticked off when they're relevant. So I often see event promotions, like on Facebook or whatever. Someone is inviting you to attend their event. They are excellent at telling you what, when, and where. Right? It's going to be on Saturday at the Rådhusplassen in Oslo. But they often forget the why. Why should I be there? And also, who should be there? Who is the target audience of this event? So try to remember that all these 5 often needs to be communicated. Even though some of them might seem self-evident to you, it might not be to the receiver. And when you have an opening, when you're speaking about something, having an opening, a body, and a summary of your speech or your presentation is important. I'm sure you are all familiar with that from doing presentations at university and so on. This comes back to the thing that repetition is your friend. The old saying goes, tell them what you're going to tell them what you told them. Have you heard that one before? It's because things that we just hear once, it's hard to remember. But if I kind of prime your brains into and telling you that today we're going to learn more about effective communication and some tips and tricks on that, once I come to the subject of effective communication, you're kind of thinking about that already. And then doing a summary at the end repeats it once again. I mean, you shouldn't repeat it to death all the time, everything, but having it in the intro, in the main body where you go into the details and doing the summary will help making the communication stick to the brains of your audience better. And then there is this fun thing where it's you have to remember to speak to the entire audience when you're speaking. So if it's 5 people or it's 500 people, try to remember to speak to everyone. And in that there is 2 components. I would say it's your eyes and your voice. So for your eyes, make sure that this is when you finally get to meet someone face to face, standing in front of a group of people, make sure that you don't just look at the people in the first row. Make sure that your eyes look not maybe at every single person of the 500 people, but in different parts of the room at different points. That makes people again feel included. And then when it comes to your voice, how are you inclusive with your voice? Well, that goes to making sure that everyone can hear you. So projecting your voice into a room. If you have a big group, you often have the help of a microphone, but still you need to take some steps so that your voice carries out into your room. Sometimes you're stuck there and you're prepared and you go up with your microphone and it suddenly malfunctions. That has happened to me. Room, 100 people, suddenly my microphone didn't work. Then I had to project my voice. And I know it's up to you guys if you want to turn on your video or not, but I'm going to just show you an easy exercise to know a little bit more about your breathing, because the breathing is important when it comes to the voice. So if you can, again, you don't have to do this with your camera on, but stand up. I'm going to stand up and put your hand on your, just on your tummy, a little bit, above your navel and belly button. So when you breathe in, make sure that you breathe in with your diaphragm, with your stomach. So when you breathe in, your stomach should go, your hand and your stomach should go out. And when you breathe out, it should go in. So when you're breathing, make sure that you're breathing all the way down here to your lungs. I would say that, especially to the women here in the room, we are often taught that we shouldn't be doing that because society's description of women, and we breathe with our shoulders going up and shoulders going down, shoulders going up, which is very bad, both for your voice, but also for your general intake of oxygen. So try to train yourself with breathing with your stomach. And often it helps with having your hands on top of it. So you can feel your breath going in and out, in and out. So yeah, if you stood up, you're free to sit down again, but try to think about that when you're preparing to hold a presentation, that the air goes all the way into your lungs. That is a little bit about how to make your communication clear. We are going to move on to having it concise. This is about making it nice, short, saying what is needs to be done and not much more. Here it goes to, when you're writing something, you can write to impress, but when you talk, you must express. That means if you're writing an essay, if you're writing a book, you have hundreds of pages of doing that. You can use a very elaborate language. But when you are speaking, you must be more concise. People cannot sit and listen to you for 3 days when you read this book of 300 pages out aloud to them. You have to summarize, you have to be shorter, and your written language is different from your spoken language. So remember that as well if you're preparing a speech. Don't write it down word for word because it will sound unnatural. In addition, you should try to avoid using filler words and jargon. Jargon is something, when I was in AIESEC, we loved it. We had so many acronyms and AIESEC language that no one understood. But remember, when you're speaking to someone else, drop it. Fillers, I have a lovely example for here. Let's see if my video will work to illustrate what is a filler.
Bompenger usosialt? Forklar så enkelt som mulig, du snill. Enig eller uenig?
Nedtellingen I gang. Valget starter.
Right. So yeah, those are filler words. We all have them. It's so hard to let go, but you can't stop them. I just said, because they come so naturally. You have to actually, if you practice enough, you can get rid of them. But you have to then pay attention that they are there. So even professional politicians, they get them all the time. The problem is you don't sound so smart when you have them, right? If you want to sound smart, try to avoid these filler words. Other filler words are things like, saying like in every other sentence, right, and so on. Replace over-explaining by encouraging feedback and questions. So, is there anything else you'd like me to explain about being concise before we go into this exercise? Because now you guys need to do something and not just sit here and listen. Any questions?
Annika, I'd like to hear your thoughts on something. One thing I occasionally struggle with in terms of communication is when I want to communicate a concept, I might have 5 words in my head to use to express that. How could, I don't know if there is some way or approach to pick one quickly. I don't know. So to make my communication much more, sharp and crisp. Yeah.
I think it goes down to the thing that I love the most, which is practice. So again, sitting there, if you have these 5 words, figure out, okay, let me explain them in 5 minutes. next time, let me explain them in 3 minutes. And so kind of cutting down on the things that you do will help you. And the more time you do it, you get some new ideas, but you also see what is not necessary.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Just one more follow-up to that is for someone like me who is taking up Norwegian as a second language, how do I ensure that I stay concise and I avoid fillers? Because in my head, and probably maybe for you as well, and for other people, there is translation going on, right? So you need to how do you give yourself that time? Yeah.
I think it then goes to, well, when you're learning a new language, obviously sometimes you don't know a specific word, so you have to explain around it to get people to understand. And that is also something that people will understand. But when it comes to, if you're doing a presentation, then I think then is where you have to be more considerate about things like being concise. So again, practice what you're going to say. Do the presentation over and over again. To maybe, again, I don't want to encourage people to write essays and read them out loud, but have your bullet points in that. Before I go to Sverre, I just saw Farouk made a good comment in the chat about how people are uncertain. These words come up a lot more. And what you did bring up as well is that pauses are the solution for filler words. If you're feeling that, oh, I don't know what to say, being silent is the most powerful tool of doing a public speaking, a speech or a presentation. Obama uses it, he's a master of it, and it's just a joy watching him use the silences and the pauses as a way of doing it. So yes, and Sverre, did you have a comment on that, or was it the same?
Yeah, I just wanted to double down that just replacing your and with just silence makes you go from being unsure, seeming unsure, to seeming deep and profoundly thinking.
Exactly. So yeah, I definitely agree with you on that one. I think we need to jump into the first exercise here, which is, we're 10 people in here. I'm going to split you out into 2 breakout rooms. So if you want to take a picture of this on the screen here, I encourage you to do that, because I would like you to discuss in your breakout room for about 3 minutes. What is this sentence? I know that you believe you understand what you think I said, but I'm not sure you realize that what you heard is not what I meant. I'm going to put you into breakout rooms. You have 3 minutes to figure out what does that sentence say. Any questions before we go into the breakout rooms? Okay, then I have something in the chat here. All good, great. Enjoy your rooms, you have 3 minutes. All right. Do we have a volunteer who wants to say what in a more simple way, what does this sentence actually mean? Please, I need a volunteer.
So in my group, we summarized it as what I meant might not be what you think. It's very...
Yeah, I think that's a good one. Thank you. Nice, concise, simple. And not this blah, 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 blah that was in the first. Did the same one the other group have something similar?
In my group, we thought it would be like, you understood what you thought I said, but not what I meant.
Yep, that's another good explanation. Yep, both of them are correct. And so much simpler than this long sentence, right? So keep that in mind the next time you're writing something or you're saying something that where did my words go? Try to make it more simple, for it becomes more easier for the people you communicate with. So moving on into a little bit of the last part, last C, is consistency. Consistency goes a lot into the building trust by communicating to people, keeping them informed. So, for example, if you're not fully you can't say what it is that you have to say, but then tell them that there is something going on and I will give you more information later. An example of this is if you're going to have a very interesting webinar in 2 months' time, you already now want to say, set off the date on this, but you haven't finalized everything about who is going to speak and what the subject is already. Then you can go ahead and say, set the date, save the date of June 10th. We'll have a very interesting seminar that day. More information will come. Instead of coming 1 week before the June 10th and saying, we found the Crown Prince of Norway is coming. It's amazing. But since you left it so late, people were just booked. So again, tell people that more information will come. This is what we know for now. And it's the same if there is a crisis. Often you hear, if there's been something involving the police happening, they say, this is what we can say now, and the rest will have to come later. Professionally, if you attend a meeting, send some meeting minutes after the meeting to summarize what it is that were decided. Again, this is good in building trust. If people trust that you will give them these few notes and you do this consistently, you will build so much trust with the people. It's like if you say that you're going to do something, that you deliver on that, is building trust. So we are going to jump into the next part, the golden circle. Who of you guys have, just by a show of hands or a symbol or something, have you heard about the golden circle before? We have a few.
I have.
Yeah,
I have heard about the golden circle, but I'm not quite sure what is it about. But I've actually heard of it. I heard a lot of managers actually mentioning it. So I really would like to know more.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much, Anastasia, for giving that, because that's the perfect starting. So I'll then actually go into explaining what it is, and I'll give quite a few examples as well, so to increase your understanding of it. So the golden circle is something that it's a phrase coined by a person called Simon Sinek. Some might have know about him before. What he found is that most companies, they start and they work with the outside circle, which is the what. They're telling you what they're doing. And to understand, like the what ring, the outer one represents like they're telling you about their services or their products, what it is that they're selling. We also have the next ring, which is the how. So they might be telling you how they are doing what they are doing. So a little bit about why are they better than their competitors and so on. But the people or the companies who are really reaching out there with their message in an effective way, they're effective communicating, they talk about the why. What is it that the company believes in? They're telling you why they're out there. And to be a successful company, your why should not be communicated, at least should not be about making money. You have to have something more to it than that. Otherwise, people won't really care. I'm now going to show you a video that explains it quite nicely. And after that, we should go over to some examples. So let's see. Okay. There, and video.
What
Sorry.
makes some companies more successful than others? It's the way they think and communicate. Most companies start their story with telling you what they sell. Some will also tell you how their product is different. And then nothing. Successful companies flip it around. They first tell you why they sell something, because they believe in healthy living. Then how? By handpicking the most nutritious foods. Only then do they tell you what they sell. Fancy a bite? From why to how to what. That is Simon Sinek's Golden Circle. The effects? Companies using the Golden Circle sell more products for a higher price, and people like to work for them. Why it works? Our brain is like a golden circle. The outer part does language ratio analysis, but the inner part is the one to actually take decisions. It does not respond to language and ratio, it responds to emotions, beliefs, dreams, to why. By communicating from the inside out, you get heard right where it matters, where decisions are being made. So, about to tell your story? Then start with the heart. Start with why.
All right. That was a little bit about explaining going from the outside and then having some of the companies that are really successful in their communication. They speak to the why, which is again the heart, or in reality the part of our brain that is ruled by emotion. Because there are, most of the time, it is emotions that make our decisions. Difference from person to person, but on a general basis. I'm going to give you a few examples of companies and what their why is. The first one here is Nike. Their why is to equip the very best athletes and anyone striving to be in the world. So that is what they say that they're communicating out into the world by their slogan, just do it. They also have a how. By having the best athletes in the world use and endorse your products over and over again. That's how it's communicated out. And what? 99% of all wannabe sport enthusiasts think they'll be just like Kobe in the shoes or pudding just like Tiger in the clubs. So again, the core of Nike is that they want to equip people, the best ones and those who want to be the best, with their clothes, shoes, gear, etc. Another example, have you guys heard about The Onion? Yeah, so it's an online news publication. However, it's not like any other news publication. Their why is to make people laugh at news. I'd say nothing you read in The Onion is true. It's all creating stories that people want to share. And what they do is satirically, yet well written false news but they have millions of people reading them every single day. But their core thing is they want to make people laugh. I think it's wonderful. We need that as a balance to all things that are wrong in the world. One last example is this one. It's a company called AIESEC. Their purpose or mission statement is to see a world where women can have orgasms just like men do. As you can figure it out, this is all about sex toys and having them by Bluetooth onto your phone. And they say, so why did we create this company? Because people are lonely when they don't have to be. But their purpose in life is to give women orgasms. And they're very clear about that in all their communication they do. This is what they're fronting. So again, this is an example. I thought we'd just look into, do you know, guys, well, apart from Pascal, maybe, what is the why, how, and what of AIESEC? Does anyone want to give it a shout?
Does this have to do something with mission, vision, values-ish?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, the vision is often, vision and mission is often what makes the why. Sarah, please.
I think the why in AIESEC from my memory was to empower leaders and to unlock mankind's potential. I believe that was our mission. I'm not wording it correctly, but yes, fulfillment of human. Yes, that one.
Exactly. And that's the thing. You knew the essence of it, right? It's hard to remember every single word, but the essence of it.
Fulfillment of humankind's potential for sure. Yeah, we always had to repeat that part. Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah, for that. And if we look at the how of, there we go. How of AIESEC, we place our confidence in youth as the key to unlock the better future. I think it's nice. And what does AIESEC do? AIESEC enables young people to develop their leadership through learning from practical experience in challenging environments. So again, most companies would then, and what we do as well, when someone comes up to you and says, so AIESEC, what's that? It is so easy to start to say, well, we enable young people to develop their leadership. The what? Because it's so tangible, it's so easy to, it's a sentence, everyone kind of understands it. But if you instead try to talk about the why, the reason why AIESEC exists, which is to achieve peace and fulfillment of humankind's potential, that is something that could resonate into the heart of people. They can go, it's easier to associate into that. So I'm going to jump forward a little bit. The thing is, we've talked a lot about companies now. You can also question, is there a why in life? Well, there definitely is. The problem with the why in life is that it takes more than 20 minutes to find it out. So I'm not going to dig into it at all today. But if you want to read and you want to learn more about this, there is this book called Finding Your Why by, again, Simon Sinek, who came up with this golden circle. I would recommend you guys to have a read at it. And see if you can figure out what is your why. Is your why do you exist? It could be an interesting discovery. Jumping forward, let's see, a little bit about communicating the why. we are about to wrap up this thing here. But what I often see when you're communicating the why, the purpose of either your organization, or sometimes you have to communicate the purpose of why you're doing a presentation, why you're doing a speech, and so on. I think it's often about you have to tell a story. So as an example, I'm using my own company, Unzip. So written out, the why of Unzip is that we are passionate about communication and helping others communicate better at the same time as we're having fun. That's a sentence. It's kind of dry, but it explains it. But if I'm going to tell you the story, this will be the story of how two friends and we came together. We've all had this experience about learning how to be better communicators, doing presentations in a good way. We also discovered that we had this passion about teaching others and helping others reaching their potential to communicate better. And by combining our knowledge that we had and going out and having trainings to people, we saw that we could make a better impact into people's life, helping them communicate better professionally and personally. And one of our core values, in addition to that, is that we should only do this as long as we're having fun. So tell that story around how why is this why? Will make it, again, touch more upon people's hearts. We're going to jump over this summary, this exercise, because we're running out of time. But what we've talked about there, we had some good discussions, and thank you for being so active. So when it comes to effective communication, you have to remember that there is both the sender and the receiver, and how they interact with each other is how the communication is done. Remember the filter that was there, and how you must check with the other person that what you heard is what they said, or what if they understood what it is you said. So doing that double checking for both the sender and the receiver. We also talked a little bit about how the why is the core of the golden circle. It is what touches the emotions. So you have the what, the how, and then the why comes into the middle. And as the third point here is that successful communicators, they speak to these emotions because they know that this is where decisions are being made. And with that, my final slide to you is that when you communicate from your heart. That is how you will convince other people, how you will persuade other people, but also how you will connect with other people. So remember your why and communicate from your heart. So thank you guys for attending. Thank you guys for coming. That was it.
Wow. Oh my God.
This was actually really helpful.
Oh, thank you. That's good. Yay.
Thank you for this.
Yeah, I'm going to leave that one there. Any questions?
Yes, Anika, I have a question. Okay, there's this thing I struggle with when it comes to communicating with people. It could be common for most people, I'm not sure. But I understand when you want to be able to relay a message efficiently, people also subconsciously judge your body language, how you make your arm movements, your eyes, and all that. But I know that eye contact is very important.
Yeah.
But I can't do that, and I don't know how to do it. I cannot even look at the camera. I can't tell if I'm looking at you or if, when I'm like this, I'm looking at you. But what is a good way to learn how to maintain eye contact? Because I've seen very good communicators, when they maintain eye contact with you, in some ways I feel intimidated because I can't do it, but I see how well it draws a conversation, and it's very easy for you to overlook something wrong they said, or it's very easy for you to accept what they said. So how can you learn the skill of maintaining eye contact, and maybe in some ways even body language, because it's easy to get that mixed up sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. I'm trying to think. I think one way of doing it, I've said this before, but the first one is practice, because it's not as you say, it's challenging sometimes. So you have to actually practice it every day. But try to think, for me, it often helps that if I think that I am really interested in this person, or I really like this person, it's easier with people you know well. But I find that when I know that I kind of want to see, I picture that I see into their heart, like I want to see and figure out this person, I think it's easier for me to keep this eye contact. I don't know if that is the case with other people. It's just something that I thought about. If there's anyone else in the room who has any ideas on this, I am most welcome to give tips. But I think if you think about the person with kindness, and sometimes also, if it's at the start, you can do the thing, fake it till you make it. Like, make yourself, okay, I'm going to look into Sarah's eyes for 3 seconds, and then I'm allowed to look away, and then look away for a bit, and then go back to practice. Joachim, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just a few comments, just to add. I think, maintaining eye contact when one is actually communicating, for me, sometimes it has to do with one's personality. If you are not an outdoor person very much, if you are one who often you are just with yourself, and always, it's very difficult for you to move, join people and all of that. It's very difficult. I think that is one thing I noticed over time. And two, sometimes it's not just about the person that asks the question, but sometimes it's also about background. I'm an African. I'm an African. And sometimes people are taught that it's disrespectful, in some societies, when you're talking, especially elderly people who are older than you, for you to look at them, So if most people who grow up in such an environment, you find out that it's difficult for them to break away from that particular thing they have grown with and they have been taught to practice. So for me, one of the ways to actually do this is try to make more friends. By friends, I don't mean people you that you grew up with, or people within your circle and it continues. Try to meet other people, so that when I was having this same issue sometime in the past, but then I discovered that my circle of friends were not actually helping me that much, because we are used to each other, we talk the same way. So what I did was to break away from that circle to make more friends who were higher than me in almost all ramifications. And from there, I started to practice that. And today, well, I'm sure that one is a past tense as far as I am concerned. So I think probably it has to do with looking back at your background, where you're coming from, and your personality. Are you an outdoor person, or you are always left with yourself? So if these things are there, try to see how you can manage it, and I think it will help you a lot from personal experience, actually. Thank you.
Thank you. A few more. You have 2 more minutes. Sverre, do you want to add, please?
Yeah, I just wanted to go further and saying it's a lot about looking at people's faces. So if you're starting to feel uncomfortable looking at their eyes, you can look. It's always nice to look at people's mouths to help understand what they're saying, because sometimes it can be loud, sometimes it can be noise, and it's a helpful tool. And like looking at kind of this part of people's faces when you're communicating makes them feel more into the and of course when you're having a speech, you don't need to look at specific people directly into their face, but like swiping back and forward kind of is what I'm usually used to.
Yeah, indeed, that is true. Were these some okay tips, Stephanie?
Yeah, they're actually quite helpful. I know the one for speaking in crowds, you don't have to look at people.